Welcome back. All right. So, news of the day video for all you fine people on the internet for your Friday, September the 20th. And today was the deadline for the Ottawa Senators to get something done with NCC regarding the LeBreton Flats development, and they got it done. They have reached an agreement in principle on a new arena and arena district. So, we're going to see a hockey rink. We're going to see a district around it because that's how these things are done now. And it sounds like it's a great day to be an Ottawa Senators fan. So I felt I had to wear Ottawa Senators for this. So it is just the starting point. They don't have the everything figured out yet. I was kind of surprised they didn't have like, here's the new arena and here's what it's going to cost. All that information out there. It has been said that usually on the Canadian side of things, stadiums do not require government money in order to be built, usually, but there have been exceptions. But it sounds like this should be built just by the team's owning the land, and it shouldn't involve public funds. So we'll see what the final picture looks like. But if you're a Sens fan, this is a good thing. You don't have to worry about the team leaving Ottawa. That kind of talk really hasn't been out there anyways, but this really puts that out, and they get the new building closer to downtown that they have been looking for. Having the building out in Canada, there are some who like it, there are many who don't, and so this definitely solves that problem for the Ottawa Senators. So there's some interesting storylines going on with training camps this week, where people who aren't necessarily employed by teams are being invited there. There's two of them on the board. We'll start with the Utah one first, because this came out yesterday. Ken Holland, invited to training camp by Utah, by the hockey club, and he doesn't have a role with the team. There's nothing official, but there's some rumblings on whether or not he might end up having some kind of maybe an advisory role with the team. We'll see. But Ken Holland, of course, looked like was retiring when he left the Edmonton Oilers, but it is very difficult to retire from this business. Just ask Lou Lamoriello. And then the other invite to discuss today is Jay Woodcroft. This is an interesting one, too. Of course, he was fired by the Edmonton Oilers almost a full year ago now at this point, and he has not found another job since then. But he's at training camp as a guest of John Tortorella with the Philadelphia Flyers. Again, not employed by Philadelphia. Doesn't sound like a job is on the way for Woodcroft. He's just taking everything in, learning, and he is awaiting his next opportunity at the NHL level. I think that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea to see how other coaches do things and take some notes. Jay Woodcroft, I think, still a good coach, and it's just a matter now of finding the right opportunity for him with a different NHL team. But I do think that he'll be back. And this is the kind of thing, too, that I think would look good to another general manager when they're looking for a coach. Somebody who's willing to, learn from others and do so on their own time when they're not being paid for it. I just think that speaks well for Woodcroft, and so we'll see if it works for him. Dawson Mercer's holdout ends. We are down to just, I think, three or four restricted free agents. Dawson Mercer, and we knew this was coming. There was no real tension between the team and the player. It is a 3-year deal for Dawson Mercer. The cap hits $4 million per season. So that's not bad. That's a pretty good cap hit. I think that's a value, a bargain potentially for Mercer. There's a lot of potential there with the kid, and I think he can get up into the 30-goal range. I think he can get into the 60-plus point range. Should be fun to see how things work out for New Jersey this year. A lot of pressure on the New Jersey Devils. We'll see how they perform under said pressure. So I really I plugged in NHL 24. I did buy the game, and I played it for maybe half an hour and said nah. But NHL 25 is at least causing me to raise my eyebrow and think about it. They appear to have fixed franchise mode, that they went in and they actually went through and made it a much better experience, much more realistic in how it's presented, which it's desperately needed for a long time. It's bad, too, because I remember playing NHL 2004 and really enjoying franchise mode and how it worked. There were some glitches here and there, but it was fun. And then when you're playing a game almost 20 years later and you're like, some of these things still don't make a lot of sense. Yeah, it just doesn't work all that well. Like if you bring in, like for instance, if people are like, oh, you have to play with the salary cap on. Well, a lot of times I played with the salary cap on, and then I see the waiver wire before the season starts, and I'm like, did the Penguins really just waive Sidney Crosby? I don't think they do that, but it's just the game is trying to get under the cap for all the teams, so they just waive whoever to get under the cap, and it's insane. So if NHL 25 is really fixed franchise mode, and I'll wait to see what the reviews say, I'm not just going to take their word for it because no. But if it has been fixed, maybe I will play NHL 25. Maybe we'll have some live streams on the channel this year. It was just getting to the point where I was like, why do I play this? And people are getting riled up about ratings, player ratings, and who's rated the highest. The ratings don't matter. Very often, the most useful players in the game don't have the highest rating, but sometimes the rating is changed by like strength or endurance and things like that aren't really measurable when you're playing for the player all that much. So yeah, if NHL 25 has fixed things, I'll enjoy it. And not only that, but I never paid attention to the ratings of the players anyways, because I'd go in and change all of them before I played a game. I'd have my own custom rosters and make sure I just changed everybody's. Usually it was the young players. I would change their potential so that they weren't useless and worth nothing. Because there was way too many times that I would get into the game and go, wow, all of the prospects suck. This is terrible. So anyways, hopefully they have fixed it. Let me know your thoughts. Do you believe they've fixed it? Do you think that there's reasons to be skeptical? Now into other news, Rick Nash. So Columbus doing something today that I think is a great move on their part. Rick Nash has been hired by the Columbus Blue Jackets as Director of Hockey Operations. Rick Nash, of course, one of the biggest stars to play for the Columbus Blue Jackets over their almost 25-year history now. And bringing him back into the organization in a role like this, I think is great. We'll see how he does. Columbus Blue Jackets definitely are going to need a lot of help this season. We're still likely to see some kind of a move from Columbus before the season gets started to address their needing of one more forward of the top 9 variety. But adding Rick Nash to the hockey operations department, that's a good move on their part. So we'll see how everything turns out. Steven Lawrence is day-to-day with an upper body injury. Now, of course, he's in training camp with Toronto on a tryout, which is why I think this is notable. Steven Lawrence is a good player. He's a fourth liner. But again, when you're on a tryout and you're out day-to-day, you're giving somebody else at training camp an opportunity to step into a role you might have occupied, and maybe it gives the Leafs a chance to say, well, Lawrence is pretty good, but we think this other guy fits in the lineup better. So again, for guys on tryouts, it has to be really, really stressful to miss any time at all, because you have a very limited, short window in which to impress a general manager and win yourself a job. So hopefully Lawrence isn't out that long, and if the tryout doesn't work in Toronto, hopefully somebody else picks him up, because again, I think Lawrence is a useful fourth liner at the NHL level. Laurent Brossoit, so he had knee surgery during the offseason. Mark Lazarus reporting that he'll be out another 3 to 4 weeks. So that does intersect with the season. It just means that Soderblom likely will be the backup to Mrazek to start the season until Brossoit is back from injury. So shouldn't be that big of a deal for Chicago, who are not likely to be in the playoff chase this year. But once Brossoit is healthy, I think he'll push Mrazek. I think he will. And a pretty decent goaltending tandem, honestly, with the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll see how things turn out for them this season. Bedard was asked as well if he has any goals for this season in terms of how many points, how many goals he's going to score and all that. And he says he kind of has a number in mind, but he's not going to tell anybody. So good plan by Bedard, but he's very highly competitive. I would think 90-95 points is where he's going to be aiming, and he may very well get there. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.